everybody, today we are going to try a puff stitch, just a simple puff stitch, and it's easy enough to do. You start off with multiples of 2 chain and add an extra 4, so depending on the size of the square that you want to make, maybe you might want to make a blanket in this stitch. That's kind of a close up, so it's just a slightly raised texture, and this is a small puff and we only have 5 loops on our hook, and you'll see it there now in a second. So to get started, so just chain up multiples of 2 plus 4. So for practice square, I'm just going to chain 24, and you'll get started then. So off you go and see how you get on with this new stitch to add to your crochet library. Now, so I have my 24 here. That's my multiples of 2 plus an extra 4. So it's 20 stitches plus 4 for me. So whatever you have is fine. So to start off, you're just going to put your yarn around your hook. Okay, and I'll try and bring that a little bit closer there now without it being... No, so you put your yarn around your hook like so, as if you were doing a treble. And you count back 4. That's the extra 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to crochet into the base of that chain, and you're going to draw up a hook as if you were going to do a treble crochet. So now you have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap it around, go into the exact same chain space, draw through your loop. You have 5 loops on your hook. So this is going to form our puff stitch throughout the whole square. It's very simple. So if you wanted to do multiples of 7 or 9 or 11, however big you want to make it. 11 would be maximum really, because it's quite difficult to draw the yarn through all of those loops at the same time. So I have 5 loops all in the same stitch now. Yarn around to finish it, all through all 5, and it'll look like this. And then to secure it, we do a little chain stitch. That's our first puff made. And then working along, you are going to skip a stitch into the next one and do the exact same thing. Yarn around, in, draw through a loop. I have 3 loops, yarn around into the same stitch, in we go. I have 5 loops on my hook, yarn around through all 5. Second puff made, and secure it with your chain. Okay, so if you look at it now like this, so this is the first row starting off. Okay, every second one make our puff, and then in the next row, which I'll show you in a second, we'll be working between the puffs, and it'll be as easy as that throughout the whole square. So this is quite nice for a blanket, you know, because it kind of adds extra heaviness to the double knit wool. So skip one into the next one, make another puff, yarn around, 3 loops on my hook, yarn around, in I go again to the same one, draw through. I have 5 loops on my hook, yarn around, pull through. And sometimes, depending on the wool you're using, I'm just going to pull that a little bit there now to get my loops up. Some wool will split, so if you were doing a large scale pattern that required a lot of puff stitches, try and avoid wool that'll split, because it'll really frustrate you, okay, making the puffs. So that's our third one. And again, that's all you're going to do the whole way to the end. So continue that, and I'll meet you at the end, and then we'll start. Sorry, I keep going out of the camera shot. Finishing this puff there now, and then I'll meet you there, and I'll take you on to the second row, and thereafter it will be exactly the same thing throughout the whole thing. Okay, see you in a second. Now, so we're down to the last 2 chains here starting off. So I'm skipping one and I'm going into the very last one with the puff. So don't forget to do that one, okay? Into the very last one. And you see the way I like, this is the tail starting off. I always like to kind of crochet the tail in at the end just to secure it. Okay, and whatever way you get it through. So this is what our first row of puffs is looking like. And then to go on to the next row, which will be exactly the same for every row thereafter, you're going to chain up 3. Okay, and then it's in here is where you're going to make your next row of puff stitches, doing the exact same thing. Yarn around your hook, in to the space, draw through 3 loops, yarn around, in, draw through 5 loops, and yarn around through all 5. and secure it with your chain. Next one, yarn around, in I go, draw through, yarn around, in I go, draw through. I have 5 loops. Now if you were wanting to do 7, it'll just keep, you know, going. You have 7 and then you have another one, you'd have 9. So the more loops you have, the bigger the puff. All right, so I'm just going to go back out there now gently, and I'm going to just go back into my space, yarn around in my 5 loops, yarn around through all 5 and secure it, and off I go again. So it's just repeating that the whole way. So don't forget your chain 3 before you turn your work to start off, and then you'll be working in the chain spaces. So continue on with that, and I'll meet you at the end and I'll start you off the next row, and after that then you'll be on your own to practice your puff stitch if you're not familiar with it already. Okay, see you in a second. Now we're down to the very end here of the first row of puffs that we've made, and this is the 4 chain that we used at the start, you know, when we turned our work in the very first row, if you remember. So make sure you go into that last loop as well. Obviously you can see it clearly anyway, not to miss that. So in, around, my 5 loops, through the 5, secure it, turn my work, chain up 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, if you don't like the 3 chain for turning, you can just do 2 if you like. If you don't like this, I think there's 3 on these ones, so this is what it looks like at the edge. Okay, if you don't like the kind of loose edges, you can do less turning chains if you want to. Okay, so off we go again, exactly the same thing, repeat, repeat, repeat. And on you go until you have your practice square, if that's what you want to do, or you could start a project. And again, sorry, I came out of the shot there. I'm securing that. There, might see the way the wool is already splitting there, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Now, off I go into the next one. Okay, and through. Now, and I'll just do a very slow version of the puff there for maybe a beginner has come on a little bit in the last couple of weeks with the stitches they've been practicing, and they'd like to learn something new, a new stitch. So it's like your treble, yarn around, in, draw through, that's what it looks like at the back, draw through my loop, yarn around, in, draw through my loop, and yarn around through all 5 and secure it. And on you go, and I'm using a 4 hook for this double knit wool today. Okay, so on you go until you have your little square or whatever it is you want to use. You could also use this stitch in a hat. It's really nice as well, the puff stitch in a hat. You could vary it. You could do a bit of puff stitch, and then maybe you could have some trebles or half trebles or a double every couple of rows, you know, just to vary the texture of the pattern as well. So give that a go. I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully we'll see you all again on the Lantern page next week for our tutorial for the advanced crocheter. In the meantime, enjoy crocheting.